Yeah, particularly in the festival scene too. If you're doing live
Mhm.
painting, not only are you going to be, creating the entire weekend and for sometimes hours at a time, but you
Mhm.
are in the act of always trying to sell something and you're always in the act
Mhm.
of entertaining everybody who comes up to talk to you. And just because, like, ooh, what's that supposed to be? Like, well, that's what you should be telling me.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big balancing act when you're mixing music with your art. So when
Mhm.
did you first start doing live painting?
The very first live painting show I ever did was for an artist named Bassnectar. Uh, we won't go too deep into him because he's I don't know if you've heard, but there's like some drama going down in the EDM community. But um
Well,
uh
I don't know. I met Bass Nectar one time, and
that is so cool. That's
he had
cool.
just got done playing, and I was backstage at like the little bar they had set up behind the stage,
Hmm.
right? And like he came up, and like mind you, I was pretty blitzed to the wind at the time,
Fair
but I
enough.
went to him, and I'm just like, "Hey, man, can I have a single lock of your hair?" He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Hey, man, no, 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 it's not for me. It's not a weird thing. Like, I'm gonna put it on eBay, but like, can I have just one single strand of your hair?" And like, it was obviously a joke. And the guy just looked at me. He's like, "No." And he just looked so like confused and disgusted.
I
Um,
know he's he's so introverted and shit goes over his head. Yeah. No, I mean, and, it wasn't even Base Nectar that invited me to paint. You know what I mean? It was like the
yeah,
team that worked for him. So, I mean, I can go on and on about that situation. So, but yeah, I definitely got my big quote unquote big break via Base Nectar and the live painting, because after that the people just kind of started to ask about, like, they would follow me on Instagram and then they would
right.
like ask about commission uh local, and that kind of gave me the courage to go local with the art, because I was like, well, I am pretty close to Philly. So I ended up working with like underground groups in Philly, just applying to little art shows, like anything I could find that was nearby, just to get my name out there, my stuff out there. And so it just kind of built off of that. So it's like, okay, I did the Bass Nectar show, I did the local show, and now there's a couple more coming up in Delaware. Maybe I should look into those. And as the years go by, it's like you still do, well, some of them, you still do those shows in addition to what you find on top of that. So the year following, after I did just one live painting show for Base Nectar, the year after that, I did 3 local shows, another Nectar show. And then the year after that, I go to fucking Mexico. You know what I mean? So it's like, it just, as long as you just fucking keep pushing, um, it's eventually going to get there. I feel
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
feel like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's the piece of advice that I give to every creative type. I mean, and throughout my episodes, I have talked to a variety of different creative people, animators to writers, and I actually had a guy the other episode, Nick Gibbons from Adult Swim, and that was his exact piece of advice for every creative type. Just don't stop creating. Doesn't matter if you can make money off of it. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter if it if it goes anywhere. What matters is that you're creating and that you're not getting discouraged, because as long as you're creating, you're at least expressing yourself and getting your voice out there.
Yes, exactly. And it's also a numbers game too if you're trying to sell, because I mean, Picasso only had a handful of famous paintings, but how many paintings did he do in his whole lifetime? You know
Oh,
what I mean?
tons,
Yeah.
tons.
Yeah,
I
so
have two Picassos, and they're just like sketches. But and the story goes is that the art collector acquired them from this fella that uh, Picasso just like gave him a bunch of sketches for some food or some booze or something like that. That's what he would do. Is he would walk
smart.
around with like a sketchbook and just like do little quick sketches and hand it out for things he wanted, because if you're working at a liquor store and Picasso comes in and says, "I'll either pay for that bottle or give you a Picasso," you're gonna take a Picasso.
You're taking the Picasso for sure. That is amazing. I wish it was still kind of like that these days. Just walk to a liquor store. Here, how about instead of the money, I'll give you an original painting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That would be cool. But the point is to like keep pushing, because without the numbers, you're not going to have the chance to have it blow up like that.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like it's almost like leaving like if you have like a handful of marbles, and like every place you go, you leave a marble, and like the only reason to go back to that place is because you left the marble there.
Right.
And other people are like, oh, I've seen that marble. They were at Breakaway Festival, so let me do this, that, and the other. And that's how I learned the hard way. That's how you get people coming back, returning customers. It's like just put yourself out there. Because I did a local show in Delaware one time, and I didn't really sell anything because it had rained and the festival grounds were just muddy, and there was no place to walk, and a lot of a lot of other tents had been like flooded in from the rain because it was like an outside thing. Not mine though, because I didn't leave mine overnight. um, but so what happened was, like a year later, I got a message on Instagram from this very nice girl, and she told me she got my business card last year from the festival, and she needed me to do a what's the word I'm looking for? A logo for her. So I
Okay.
did her logo, but now it's been like over a year, and she's bought so much stuff from me at this point. And just because I gave her my business card during that one shitty festival.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like I may have not made too much that day, but I have this beautiful returning customer, you know? And I was like, okay, so maybe that's how it works. Like out of so many people available to you, you're only going to get like one or two, maybe, if you're
Well,
lucky.
Well, I think it's also opening yourself up to every opportunity that presents itself because, you're an
Mm-hmm,
abstract artist and she asked you for a logo. That's kind of
mm-hmm,
something that would be usually outside of what you would usually do. But you
mm-hmm.
said yes, you opened yourself up to a new experience and a new opportunity. And then, you did such a good job, that person's going to keep coming back for what you do specialize in.
Yes, exactly. And it's like if you and as long as you're just honest with people too, you're like, oh, maybe I haven't really worked with that medium, but I can definitely try it, or not tell them at all. It depends.
Yeah, yeah.
Depends on how good you are at your crafts. Uh, so I mean, anyone, the phrase "fake it till you make it." I mean, like I remember so a long time ago, somebody asked me to draw a tattoo design for them, and I don't know, I didn't know how any of that worked. I didn't know if skin was different than paper, but
Right.
I was like, yeah, I'll draw one for you, no problem. She's like, you've done it before, right? I'm like, yeah, I've done plenty. But she knew I wasn't a tattoo artist. She knew I just like to doodle. So
Right. Right.
she was like, maybe you could do that for me. And it's like, yeah. I'm not saying, I'm not saying like you should lie about what you're good at. You know what I mean? But it's like if you are good at it, but it's just kind of like a different version of that thing you're good at. Like you're probably still good at it.
Yeah.
You just can't, like, if you play the guitar, you can probably play the ukulele. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, once you learn, certain things on a guitar, because I play mandolin and banjo,
Very
and
cool.
one of the things that I've always found interesting is how certain things that you pick up with on certain instruments can transfer over, right? Just
Yes. Yes.
like I was, I don't know, even though the mandolin and banjo are two way different instruments, like certain picking patterns on the banjo will actually transfer over to the mandolin quite nicely, as long as you kind of like rework them in the timing. So like it's the same thing with art, though, right? A lot
It's
of
all
things.
confidence.
Yeah, yeah. What you pick up in dealing with one medium can transfer over. I think Bob
Mhm.
Ross taught me that.
What'd you say?
I said I'm pretty sure Bob Ross taught me that.
Oh, yes. How relevant. How perfect.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. As a self-trained artist, as soon as they added that collection on Netflix, that was a tool and a resource that I have just found profoundly influential on me.
That is amazing. Hmm.
Primarily when, like, you try and, like, deal with, like, oils and stuff because his wet on wet technique is a lifesaver, primarily if you want
Hmm.
oil to be more forgiving.
Mhm, mhm. And, and that's another thing, like, your techniques don't have to be Bob Ross's techniques, you
Right.
know? Yeah, so you can watch the Netflix and just kinda get, like, the gist of it. Like, "Okay, he's making that hand shape, I can do that." And, maybe it doesn't look exactly the same, but it's got your own little flair to it now,
Yeah,
so it's your own little
absolutely.
style. So it's, like, still right, it's not wrong. Just go with it now because even if you make a mistake, it's your mistake. It's your piece now. The mistake is the piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, and I don't know, I guess that's the one thing that, like, I guess the one thing that makes, the mistakes more prevalent is that, like, within art itself, like, you can even, once you make a mistake, expound on it and create something new that was outside of your original vision but complements it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Uh, I love when a piece turns out better than I had expected, honestly, or if it turns into something I didn't plan at all. Like I have sketched out several pieces that I have definitely just been like, you know what, I'm gonna just go over this with something else. Because that's another beautiful thing about art. You can just change it if you want. You can just change it. Like, I don't like this. Paint over this with white.